This is Six Tackles with Gus, with Matthew Thompson and Gus FUMES.
Six Tackles time once again. Great to be back for another episode, heading into round 7 of the competition on the show today. The NRL's injury crisis. Has Gus ever seen it so bad at the start of a season? As a result of all the injuries, there's some crucial team changes for round 7. We'll have a full preview, a swag of Ask Gus questions to wade through. And after last year, we crowned Nicho Hynes as the best looking man in Rugby League. Today, we're going to the opposite end of the scale. It's not the ugliest man in Rugby League, because that would be cruel. We're starting our search for the scariest man in Rugby League. Welcome, Gus.
Matthew, how you doing?
I'm good. Some excellent questions for Ask Gus this week.
Really?
There's been heaps and heaps of them. Some very insightful questions. I'm looking forward to wading through all of those. How's your week?
Yeah, not too good. Not too good. Got worse today, actually.
Oh.
Just got news through that Viliame Kikau has torn a pec muscle at training, so he'll be having surgery on Monday.
Oh.
Which is
you
the
can't
last
take
thing
a trick.
Yeah, no. Well, that's football. Thunderbolts happen. That's what thunderbolts are. You just get a thunderbolt out of the blue. He's just had 2 games off because of mandatory HIA, and now he's done his pec at training.
Wow. Is that a season, or is it not that bad, or what's the story?
Well, surgery on Monday will probably determine his fate, but at the moment they're hopeful of 8 to 10 weeks, I suppose. Still a chunk out of your year.
Is it what?
Anyway.
Yeah, we'll run through the NRL casualty ward. Look, there's a lot of clubs with a lot of players out at the moment, and it poses the question, I suppose, when it comes to suspensions as well. I wonder if the injury toll should influence suspensions, because the game needs to see their best players out there. We'll talk about all that in a minute. Let's start with our favourite segment, however.
Yes! No.
That's the rule.
No. Dear.
Gus, after they've scored almost 100 points in 2 weeks, are the real Panthers back in business, baby?
Yes!
So,
well, what do you mean they're back? They never went anywhere. What do you mean they're back?
Well, no, they've had a couple of losses, and they're a bit clunky to start the year.
1-point losses.
Okay.
Everyone throws their toys out of the cot. They're still the best defensive team in the competition.
Yeah, I was just going to say, their defensive stats this year are better than they were at this time last year.
Yeah, so it's not a matter of being back. They're just reasserting their superiority, which they've had now for 3 seasons. They've been the most superior team in the league. Remembering they won the grand final with a leg in the year last year, so a lot of teams have got a lot of ground to make up if they want to challenge them. So they were our pick at the start of the season. I said the premiership could be well hidden. It just depends how Panthers handle this year, but been very good the last couple of weeks.
All right.
Albeit against a couple of pretty ordinary performances from their opponents.
That's true. On the back of that, look, admittedly it was inferior opposition with the greatest of respect, but the fact that they've played so fluently with the ball, is that a confidence booster for them?
I don't think they've done much differently than they've done in previous weeks. Obviously, with a lot of their players in the World Cup at the end of last year, and the amount of time off now they have to have between seasons, which is a bone of contention with me right across the board. It's just taken them some time to find their feet, which is only natural. You don't win competitions in March and April. You win them in September. They've been down this road a number of times before, and they'll still be the team to beat when we get to the business end of the season. But they've certainly flexed their muscles the last couple of weeks over a couple of teams, which I will stress were very, very poor. Raiders bounced out of their loss against the Panthers and were able to beat the Broncos, which franked the form. It'll be up to see whether or not the Sea Eagles can do the same this week after a pretty ordinary first half out there at Penrith the other night. Mind you, Penrith had all the ball and carved them up, didn't they?
Panthers up at Newcastle this week. Question 2, the Hammer on fire. Will he get a Queensland jumper? Yes! Speed, baby.
Love speed. No, I hate speed, particularly in an opposition team. It's the one thing I always feared. It kept me awake at night. Gave me nightmares. And he's got speed. He's shown he can handle a couple of positions, although obviously fullback is his preferred position. That's why he's down playing with the Dolphins to play in his preferred position, and couldn't be doing any more. He's a I often say, when the game's in the balance and the results in doubt, there are certain players that want their hands on the ball and some that probably don't. And Hammer's one that goes looking for it. He puts himself in the fight, and he's done it a couple of times for him. I think he's scored a try every week, hasn't he, for the new club? He's done really well.
So you played against Queensland when they had the Walkers on. There might be the Hammers on this year.
The Hammers on.
Hammers on.
Hammers on. Hammers on. You'd certainly know. You'd be nervous if he was on the bench and he came out late in the game, and wouldn't matter where they put him. No, very, very good player.
And Harry Grant will be there for Queensland. He's leading the Dally M, Gus. Will Harry Grant go on to win it?
No. I've got my Dally M pick.
Who, Nico?
Nico.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose...
You'll miss some footy with red footy.
The thing about Harry Grant is that, there's a lot of key players in that Melbourne Storm. So when they win, I think the points will be shared. You'll have Munster and Hughes and these sort of players take points off him from time to time. If he was playing with a team without so many brilliant playmakers, he might dominate the polling, but be a very, very talented player. He's Dally M quality, there's no doubt about it, but I just think someone from another team will probably get the result there. So I'm saying no to a Harry Grant Dally M this year.
What about the Bulldog hooker? Where's he in the Dally M's? He's going enormous.
Reid Marnie.
Oh, yeah. He's kicking out of dummy half. He's a great 40-20 exponent, isn't he?
He's a very good player, mate.
Yeah.
He's a great kid, too.
Is he?
He's been terrific.
Geez, that ear, he's had that ear of his, his left ear, cauliflower ears. I haven't seen cauliflower ears on a rugby league hooker in years.
Well, we've got 3 players with cauliflower ears at the moment. They get them drained before every training session, drained before a game. It's a painful thing. I had it years ago. You get this needle, they drain the fluid out of your ear, and then they tape it up really tight, and then they put a strapping around it, so you try not to get it. It lasts with you for weeks and weeks and weeks. Really, it doesn't stop until the end of the season, and you stop rubbing it up against things. But
so Reid Marnie's ears in the off-season aren't cauliflower. I thought it was a permanent affliction.
No, it will scar tissue there. I treated mine pretty good, so it didn't blow up like some of them do. Back in the old days, they used to bubble out, and they'd leave it like that.
So it's fluid, is it?
It's a fluid. It's an inflammation of the fluid, and because your ears are all just cartilage or bone or whatever. Anyway, but it fills up and then it solidifies. It stays there. That's why they keep draining it out so it doesn't solidify too much.
Ugh, yuck.
But my left ear is a little bit afflicted with it.
Right.
But that cauliflower ears were mainly front rowers back in the old days because when they pack into the scrum and they'd be pushing and shoving and grinding and head butting and doing all that, that's where mainly you got it. But no one pushes in the scrums anymore. But I think he got it from banging his head in tackles, where
he bangs his head a bit, doesn't he?
Runs up against them, yeah.
Who's the worst cauliflower ears you reckon you've seen? The rugby boys have bad ones.
The rugby boys have terrible ones.
It's awful.
Terrible ones. Some of the old timers, had terrible cauliflower ears. But these days they drain them to try and improve their appearance over time.
If ever, you can't get an ear transplant, can you? You can't get an ear transplant.
No. Some people don't use their ears. Some people think their ears are just there for holding up sunglasses.
They're painted on.
They don't use them for anything else. No one listens.
Very good.
People like talking, they don't like listening.
Yeah.
You never learn anything while you're talking. You never learn anything while you're talking.
I've become a lot smarter since I've been working with you. I just listen, taking all the wisdom.
While ever you're talking, you're learning nothing. You can only learn by listening. Some people just don't listen.
Anyone in particular?
Oh, let me count the ways.
If Freddie was picking a New South Wales team today, Reece Robson would be the hooker.
No. Good player. Where did that come from?
Well,
how was suddenly Reece Robson?
He's in the squad last year.
He's
in the squad last year. He's not far away. He's right up there in the thinking.
Damien Cook.
Yeah.
Appy Coruscant.
So how does the Tigers' current predicament affect Uppy's selection prospects, given Freddie has stipulated that he wants players in winning teams?
Yeah, well, he's just won a couple of comps. I don't think he's forgotten how to win. Does that answer your question?
It does. Should we relax the rules for Manly and Melbourne on Friday so the boys can get it on?
No.
Why?
No.
I thought that'd be a yes for sure.
No.
You calling that game? Battle of Bookie back in the day?
No, I'm not calling games this week.
No. When the original...
I think I was.
Yeah?
I'm trying to... I think I was.
Yeah?
Yeah, because I could see... I'm pretty sure I was. But I remember the two players stopping just inside, and they looked at each other and said, "Yeah, well, okay, let's go." And then she was on like Donkey Kong.
Was it? What?
Yeah.
So I can tell you with absolute authority that the Battle of Brookvale has been mentioned in Manly's preparation this week.
Yeah, good.
As
I said on 100% footy the other night, like every time this game comes around, everyone remembers that game and remembers the night and the rivalry, and they hate each other. And we often promote football where they hate each other, and when we put the big hits on the half of them are shoulder charges and half of them are big hits and belting people, and we celebrate the toughness of the game, and then we ask them to go out and play like children. It's ridiculous what our game is and what it should be and what it's not. Yeah, no, I don't think that'll be happening.
No. Now let's talk about this casualty award. I've got all the clubs here and the players they've got sidelined. The Broncos have got 2 out, and they're lucky because they're both coming back soon. Flegler's a week out, and Corey Oates is a couple of weeks at most. Raiders 5, Bulldogs now 7, except for Addo-Carr, they're all forwards. Cronulla 5, Dolphins 6, Titans 6, Manly 5, Melbourne 4, Newcastle 6, Cowboys 6, Parramatta 1, and that's a suspension. Penrith 2, South 4, Dragons 5, Roosters 3, Warriors 7, Tigers 4. Have you seen it this bad at the start of a year?
Yes, yeah. You have years where you have bad injury runs. A lot of it's just the nature of the sport, collision sport, and you're going to have injuries, etc. Some of it is lack of preparation and probably coming into the season a little bit underdone, and that's because of a lot of it too can be because we had a couple of years of COVID where there was no development football. A lot of players haven't played a lot of football, particularly in their age years. So your young teenagers, which are now turning 20, 21, probably haven't had the hardening, they haven't had the repetitions, they haven't had the grounding and the physical development that they should have had during that time. A lot of it's rule changes, speed of the game, tackle techniques, all different things can contribute to it, and a lot of it's just bad luck. We play a collision sport, you're going to get hurt. People seem to think we can have a game where no one gets hurt. That's impossible. And then we seem to have a game where if someone gets hurt, someone's got to get the blame for it. Someone's got to be suspended or penalised or sin binned or what have you because someone's, anyway, don't start me on all that. But I'm just, injuries are injuries, mate. It happens a lot. I've had years where a whole season's been written off by injuries, and you've just got to get something out of it. In our case, at the Bulldogs, it's right for the next couple of years, it's a club of opportunity. That's what we're doing, building a team for a future, a club for a future. And whilst it's not ideal to be having your top line players, particularly your forwards, out at the moment, because that affects other players that can come into the team, it's an opportunity for kids to put their case forward. So it is what it is. We've just got to get on with it.
Yeah. SB asks Gus, do you believe the increased speed of the game from the rule changes has anything to do with the injury/concussions?
No. No, I think tackle techniques have got more to do with that. I don't see the games being faster at the moment anyway. I think they're much slower. I think there's way too many stoppages in the game, and which means players are fresher a hell of a lot of the time. I had a report done for me by my good mate who was the Panthers doctor for a long time. He's retired now, but he came to me 5 or 6 years ago and said that we had to go back to a 5 metre rule. That the 10 metre rule was giving too much momentum into the collisions, and that with the players the way they train these days, we needed to cut that down. We see a lot of injuries from players bringing the ball back from kickoffs, or it's. I don't know. They've made it too hard to tackle these days. They're making it harder and harder, which means the collisions are different, the tackle techniques are different, their interaction within the tackle is different. They're trying to play the game at a pace that is just impossible to maintain, and that's because of, back in the day, several coaches wanting to influence the speed of the play of the ball because they didn't know how to coach attack, they didn't know how to play attacking football, so we'll water down the defence by attrition, by making super quick play the balls, and no one can get their defensive line set. And of course, the counteraction to that is you've got to get your defensive line set. You've got to be able to tackle and buy some time and get your line set and get your markers set so you can defend the next play, which is, the game is supposed to be an equal battle between attack and defence. I could talk for hours on this subject about the history of the tackle techniques and the rule changes and 5 metres to 10 metres and speed of play the balls as seen being the focus of the game, which it never should. It should never have been the focus. You look, they do a thing on the stats now about play the ball speed for each team. Invariably, the team with the slower play the balls is actually winning the game.
Really?
Not the team with the faster play the balls. There is no correlation between the speed of your play the ball and your success level. No correlation whatsoever. So those that are just relying solely on the speed of the play the ball to determine what's an entertaining game, it's been a ridiculous concept right from the start, and it's led to not only a raft of rule changes and tackle changes and judiciary changes and charges changes, and it's also led to, I think, a poorer product at times.
Could you ever see us go back to a 5 metre rule? And how would that influence the game?
I'd have to see it in lower grades. I'd have to see how that accommodated. The problem is in getting consistency with the 5 metres. The 10 metres was easy because we have 10 metre grids, or we went to 10 metre grids on the field. It's why the quarter line, the 20 metre tap used to be the 25 yard tap, in the old days, and that went to 22 metres. So we actually made it 20 metres so that we could have equal grids on the field to give referees, fans and players an idea of where 10 metres was in the play the ball. And the referees are actually extending that to 11 and 12.
Yeah, they do go back a
lot. The right margin was around about 7 or 8. When it was the old 5 metre rule, we were pleading with referees to get them back 7 or 8, all right, which allowed for the early jump or the speed off the line, etc., etc. People, because they don't understand the game and they don't understand have been pushing and pushing and pushing to get them further and further back, which has made it even harder to defend, which means there's got to be more focus put onto the contact and the wrestling, the play the ball to slow to get yourself set, which is only leading to more interpretation and more injury. I think the right margin is 7 or 8. I think that's always been the right number for speed, continuity, injury, the whole thing. Once you get to 10, and when they stretch it out to 10 or 11, you'll see the referees more often than not back at least 11 metres.
So a wider gap means greater velocity in the tackle.
Greater velocity.
Which means
more impact.
In the current situation with HIA and concussion, it's potentially a recipe for disaster. That's why we're seeing so many players knocked out.
And the tackle techniques of trying to, because virtually just by attrition, they have eliminated low tackling from the game. There is no benefit to low tackling, either to the attacking team or the defending team. Low tackling has virtually been outlawed in our game. There is no reward for it, because when they started to try and make artificially quick play the balls and speed up the game artificially, right, because someone thought this was going to be entertaining if the score was 40 to 36, low tackling, the minute you tackled someone around the legs one-on-one, the referee said roll away. You weren't allowed to get back and be a marker defender. You had to release straight away and get up, which allowed the bloke to play the ball with no marker, and off they'd go. Whereas in the old days, if you made a low tackle, you could then climb up his body, get yourself around, get yourself in position and be a defender on the next play. If you make a tackle, you should be entitled to be a defender on the next play. Your work hasn't finished until you got to marker and you were there ready for the next play the ball. They eliminated all that without consultation, consultation with maybe a couple, and on what the effects that would have. So you had this stupid thing is you had to roll away. Also, if you made a low tackle, chances are you risked more injury to yourself, either breaking arms on knees or concussions or knocking yourself out, etc., etc. And if you tackled someone low, and the old thing was tackle first man in low, second man comes over the top and wraps up the ball. Well, of course, if you tackle low and he's falling quickly and I come out over the top to wrap up the ball, what's happened?
Belt him in the head.
Oh, I don't belt him in the head, but his head hits my hand, and now old mate stays down and waits for someone to give him a penalty. So you are actually doing everyone a disservice, yourself and your teammates a disservice if you tackle low. So we got rid of low tackling, right? So this idea of catch and grab, catch, lock up the ball and grab them. But you can't get them to the ground. They're so big and strong and they've got so much momentum. So then what happened, they had the first two men come in and tackle at the ball. You tackle the ball, right? You hold them up, all right, so they don't get to the ground and play the ball quickly, because what we had was voluntary tackles. Forwards were running up and falling over at the feet of players, You couldn't touch them. You couldn't flop on them. You couldn't put a hand on them.
It's touch footing.
All right? Or you tackle them low and you get up and play the ball, and defences couldn't cope, and people were running in hundreds of tries.
So this is where the third man in around the legs is coming in.
So the idea was, in the old days where it used to be first man underneath and everyone else over the top to lock up the ball, now it become everyone starts over the top, locks up the ball, holds the man, and then the third man would come into the legs. All right. Now we come up with cannonball tackles and all this sort of thing. Where did he hit him? How did he hit him? Because everyone was fine with that until someone got hurt.
But you do concede that's dangerous, don't you? The third man in.
I hated the third man in right from the start. Yep. I begged them not. The first time I saw it done, I went to the referee's boss, Bill Harrigan. I said, "Get this out of the game now. Stop this. Right? This is totally arse up. We got it the wrong way around." But they knew better. So then what they wanted to do, they wanted to stop you third man in coming in at the knees, which we all don't like, and that was causing injuries, right? Because players were getting really aggressive with it, so we called it the cannonball tackle. We gave it a name as well, and we had the chicken wing and all that.
We had the finger licking good on Monday night.
Yeah, finger licking. We had the chicken wing and the wicked wing,
wing,
whatever else we got. But why was that happening? Why were suddenly we grabbing arms and all that? Because they made the jerseys so skin tight. In the old days, you could grab a bloke's jersey and pull him down or hold him back or do whatever, and you could get a grip on them. Now you can't. They're painted on. Right? They're painted on. Players can't get them on and off themselves. They've got to get someone else to pull it on. They are so skin tight, so you can't grab them. No one can grab you by the jersey. No one can push you down on the ground by your jersey. So what did you have to do? You had to grab levers. All right. The levers were the neck and head area. All right. The elbow, the shoulder, or the wrist, which is where we started getting all these wrestle holds. It was the start of the grapple tackle because I can't grip him anywhere else. I'll grab his neck.
Jeez.
All right, and then we started to get. We'll grab their levers. We'll stop them from getting down on the ground. We'll hold their arm in. We'll hold their arm out. We'll push them back so we can get them on their back. It's the only way I can do it because I can't grab his jersey and push him down. I can't hold him down by his jersey. So the tightness of the jerseys led to, and the tackle techniques that we're using led to a whole new way of trying to contain the man with the ball, get him to the ground, and then giving yourself enough time to get your defence set for the next play, which the rule makers have been trying to destroy for the last 30 years in defences. Everything's been done for the attacking part of the game because a couple of coaches needed to be able to attack. I could write a book on this and go through the whole, and they've been chasing their tail with it all the time. So now we've got these, all right, we've got to stop them coming in low at the legs. So now then they said, well, you can't attack below the knees, right? The cannonball, you can't, if you're going to be third man in around the legs, you don't come in below the knees. So where do you come in?
Around the waist.
Around the waist.
Yeah.
But you're still not stopping their legs pumping. So how do you stop their legs from pumping?
Hip drop.
Well, it's not a hip drop.
Well, that's what's led to the hip drop.
You're applying the weight. That's where you've led to a couple of accidents like that. They're not deliberately trying to do it. I don't see that done anywhere in training. I don't see that done as wrestling tactics anywhere. Well, certainly in no club that I've ever been involved with. But it opens itself to that.
Yeah. Because
you can't go in and tackle lower. You must tackle around the hips. And you've either got to slide down the pole, all right, but players have always been getting injured with low tackles, all right? Ankles twist and foot get caught under and you get caught under you. It's just part of the game. But now we want to punish someone for it. I've got no idea, all right? I've got no idea. The people that are making these rules and enforcing these rules, come and tell me how you think the tackle should be affected, and I'll guarantee neither the rules, the judiciary, or anyone, I will say it's contrary to everything else you're trying to do around the rules.
Let me ask you this. And I saw, in fact, I noted, because I know it's been your bugbear, and I've been looking at low tackling. So Sam Walker whips their legs out. He's a little bloke. Keary does it. Reid Marnie tackles him around the ankles sometimes. And so they're three low tacklers, and they're all. What is the ideal scenario? So should we be encouraging those tackles where they come in, tackle their legs, one-on-one? Is that what you want? Do you want to see more of that, and how do we incentivise that?
No, that's what you're trying to get the opposition to do, because now the rules are if you tackle them around the legs...
No, sure, but what I'm saying is how would you change the rules to facilitate that?
You need to give the people that tackle lower more time to reset in defence.
Right.
They need to be not this roll away rubbish, get out of the play, because now you're down to 12 men.
Yeah.
Now you're down to 12 men, and because you can't go in and... See, what would happen is old mate would tackle him around the legs, and as he's going to the ground, you'd come in and you just fall on top of him, or you put your hands on top of him to hold him down, so your mate could get back around a second marker or first marker, or get back where in the line was. They don't want that. They say, roll away, roll away. So you roll away, you haven't got time to get in there. Now you're offside, marker not square. You've got to let them go. They just run from dummy half.
Yeah.
And this, look... there's a whole history to this, Matthew.
Yeah, no, sure there is. But I'm trying to get from you with. I mean, you know more about this than anyone.
There is no.
Is that the safest way? Whipping a bloke's legs away?
There is no. For some players, that's the only way they can tackle. All right, they're not really effective at tackling any other way, particularly the smaller players. And when you're talking about outside backs and you're letting players to get to your outside and you're allowing a space for them to run into, right, so that you can, a lot of defences on the edges is getting them to run where you want them so you can hit them with the shoulder that you want. And your most effective way of tackling a fast man is probably like that. And particularly when those big, tall, lanky outside backs that have got great fends and all that, it's not easy to be going up high and trying to make one-on-one tackles. The one-on-one tackle, primarily, either you are racing up quickly and hitting him before he gets momentum, ball and all, but if he's got speed and got momentum, your most effective tackle is a low tackle. But the game now marks against you straight away. And this ridiculous thing, he's earned a fast play the ball. No, he hasn't. When did that ever come in?
Yeah,
it's a ridiculous interpretation. And it's hard to explain it here in piecemeal form, all right? This needs to sit down in front of people and show them the history of the tackling techniques, show them the history of the games and the rules and how it's accommodated, show them how they've been chasing their tail all the way through it, to the point now where we've got hip drops and cannonballs and wing tackles and all sorts of rubbish going on in the game, and players are getting suspended, sin bin. We had one player sent for a sin bin on Friday, right, which virtually ruined the game, and then 2 days later, a bloke does the same thing. He doesn't go to the sin bin. So within the space of 2 days, they treated the same incident differently. The one that didn't go to the sin bin got charged. The one that did go to the sin bin, who had done nothing wrong, was nothing like a hip drop tackle, nothing, other than the fact that it ruined his chances of his team of a comeback. So the game now has become that the players just serve a purpose so that the referees can show you how good they are, and the judiciary can show that they're doing a job, and the doctors can show you that they're being careful. It's, the players and coaches must be so frustrated with the way this game is officiated, the way it's ruled, the way the judiciary is. They're making it virtually impossible to play. What I watch each week is refereeing exhibitions. I see refereeing and judiciary exhibitions. That's the focus of our game. The footballer comes a distant third to process and correctness and whatever else they want to do. It's very, very frustrating. Now, you can call me a dinosaur if you like, but I'm just telling you how it's evolved and what's happened over time and how frustrating it is. So what they've got to do, they've got to practice all this rubbish at training all the time, and it leads to a Viliame Kikau doing his peck at training. Why? Because they're trying to practice these tackle techniques and improve with their defence, and they're doing it to each other. They're doing it to each other at training 3 or 4 times a week. That never happened back in the 80s and 90s. We didn't tackle each other at training. We tackled tackle bags.
I remember tackling the tackle bag.
You tackled tackle. Well, no one tackles tackle bags anymore.
I never missed a tackle against a tackle bag.
No, they don't move very quick. But at least the confidence and the technique. Don't. And even,
I didn't mean to wind you up. I was just trying to get to...
Matthew, listen. Use your ears. What I'm saying is it's impossible in this forum, here on this podcast, for me to articulate exactly what is wrong with the tackling techniques and the history of it over a period of time. You'd have to write a book on it. But I'll guarantee you those that are making the rules know none of the history and don't know why they're doing what they're doing. I guarantee it. I absolutely guarantee it. All they're worried about is, mate in the newspaper bagging someone because someone got knocked out or someone did this or someone did that. It's all reactionary and it's all self-preservation. No one looks after our game. No one looks after our game. No one looks after our game. They look after themselves. That's what they look after.
I'm listening. I've listened. I'm going to get to these Ask Gus questions because we've got a lot of them. Nick K. It's not Nick Kyrgios. Most notable improvements from the Knights in their games from what you've seen so far?
Resilience. Resilience. Doing really well. Going good. They look fitter. They look stronger. They look as though they know what they're doing.
My heart breaks for Jaden Brayley. Gee, that's sad.
It's terrible. Terrible.
And Adam Dewey, for that matter.
So hard. Particularly those repeat ones like that. And it's just the way the game is. We had a few at the weekend over there at the ANZ at Addo-Carr Stadium. And they're saying that the Brisbane surface isn't too good either.
Right.
Anyway, hope it's not the surface. Hope it's something else.
They're playing like a Newcastle team should.
Yeah, well,
plenty of steel.
Yeah, that's exactly. That's that game where they won with 12 men against the Tigers at Leichhardt. might have seemed like not so much at the time, but I thought it was significant. There was real steel in their performance, and most people expected them to lose, but they didn't, and they've just carried it on. They're growing in confidence. Kalyn Ponga's not playing, but they've got plenty of points in them, and they're doing a really good job. So it's good to see. We need Newcastle strong. We need all our teams strong, but they've done a really good job.
So Ponga back round 8, so he misses this week, then he's back. They've also got Jacob Safidi due to come back from suspension in round 8. They're missing Adam Elliott with a groin, indefinite. Must be a bad groin, that one. And then obviously Jaden Brayley, which is just terrible news for him. We wish him well, and Adam Douy for that matter. Andrew 1269 says, fellas, he's asking you, when reviewing a game, is the team looking at the entire 80-minute game minute by minute, or are they chopping it up to key moments? And what key moments are there? Also, when you're previewing the upcoming game and formulating a game plan, what's the team looking for?
Well, you look at it all. Some coaches are different, and some of the information they give the players is different. I think as a professional footballer, you should be watching the entirety of every game you play every week and the entirety of every opposition player you're playing every week. There was a time where coaches thought they had to try and reduce that time because players got bored in meeting rooms and some players fell asleep, and players used to whinge about the coach talks for too long or the coach shows too much video. Well, find another career, mate. If you want to be the best at what you do, the people that do their homework are the best. It's as simple as that in all sports around the world. I can show you some wonderful documentaries on Tom Brady and why his career the way it was over in the NFL because of the amount of video he watched in his own spare time. I've spoken to you about Nathan Cleary from a very young age, how much time he spent in front of the video watching the game and trends with game. I don't think you truly learn the game until you understand a sense of timing of how a game unfolds, on what leads to what leads to what. And just to isolate moments and say we should have made that tackle there or we should have made that run there or that pass there is not enough. Just to say an opposition team is conceding points down their left-hand side doesn't necessarily mean that just because we go there we're going to score points. Where did they come from to get there? What happened in the preceding 3 or 4 tackles? What happened in the preceding 3 or 4 sets? What did they run at them before they finally got the one that produced the line break? There's not enough. I still think that in that respect, players and coaches underestimate the value in learning what a game looks like in its entirety.
So would you have shown your teams the whole game and just stop it during the game?
Always. At least once a week. I would have watched it 3 or 4 times. But, and then you try to isolate moments in the week and make it more specific. But I just don't think cutting up a little 15-minute highlight package of a game and saying, well, this is our performance on the weekend, or this is how we're going to beat this team on the weekend. I don't think that's anywhere near enough. Like in the old days, I'd go and watch our opposition team play live at least twice in the month preceding the game. So I was always preparing 3 and 4 weeks in advance.
And then all your opposition coaches were there as well.
And I assume, well, the good ones were. I assume that coaches still do this. I don't know how coaches do it anymore. I don't get involved in all that. But I still think there's value in players watching the entirety of a game. And they should. They're professional sportsmen. They need to learn what... And I think that's the problem with the development of our playmakers. Everyone wants the playmaker to come up with a fancy run or a fancy pass. But how do I time my way through a game? How do I set my game up from start to finish? And what am I looking for in the tense moments where, we need to score points? And how do I calm a game down? How do I wrestle back momentum when the opposition's playing well? How do I approach it when we're behind on the scoreboard? How do I approach it when we're well in front on the scoreboard? How do I approach it when time is running out and we need points to win? I mean, you have to watch the game in its entirety and you have to coach the game in its entirety. And to be honest, I don't know that they do enough of it, to be honest.
Yeah, right.
I just don't know there's enough of it. That's, I only know that by what I see. And whether sides improve and players improve or they keep doing the same thing over and over again.
I'm staggered to learn.
Essentially, players and teams become creatures of habit. It's just a repeat of what we've seen in the past.
I'm staggered to learn that there's a lot of players that don't even watch football.
Some of them don't watch any.
I can't believe that.
No, they'll watch the NBL, they'll watch the NFL, or play Xbox and play games. Some of them aren't interested in it.
Isn't that? But I find that just totally bizarre.
I don't want too much information. Find another sport, mate. Like if you're going to be the best, if you want to be the best, I guarantee you, Cooper Cronk watched games. Cameron Smith watched games.
Yeah.
I guarantee you Jonathan Thurston watched games. I guarantee you all those blokes, studied football, and we were studying them because still couldn't stop them, because that's what makes them great players. But
Yeah.
I've always been a very strong believer in video analysis and video replays and previews, and I couldn't care if I bored them senseless. It wouldn't matter, because that's the grounding that they needed. Now, later in their career, I remember Brad Fittler came to me one time, late in his career, and he said, do they have to do so much video work? I said, yeah, they do. He said, I said, mate, we can ring you up and give you the game plan over the phone. But why? Because you did all this when you were young, right? You watched all this. You know what the game looks like and all that. These fellas have got to get to that level. And that's, I just think that sometimes, they don't do enough of it. Anyway, it's just my own personal opinion. Again, I'm a dinosaur. I wouldn't have a clue what I'm talking about.
Why do you keep calling yourself a dinosaur?
I'm a dinosaur.
No, you're not.
I'm 65 years of age.
Oh.
I come from a different era.
Who,
We didn't have chicken wings and cannonballs and all that rubbish back in the day.
Wicked Wings.
We didn't have skin-tight jerseys too. I thought it was great.
How'd you come up with the Wicked Wing and 100% footy?
I don't know.
Was that a Freudian slip? Did you stop at KFC on the way home?
I've run out of names for tackles.
Can you remember anyone that fell asleep in your video sessions?
Yeah, a few.
Can you name them?
Graham Bradley fell asleep straight away. Paul Smith used to fall asleep. Paul Blakes from Penrith. But they worked for a living.
Yes,
they'd be up at 7 in the morning, go to work, and then here I am at 5 o'clock in the afternoon showing replays in black and white TV on a little rank arena TV. And I'm saying, what's this? And you turn around and be half asleep.
How'd you cut them back in the day?
Stop,
VHS to VHS?
Stop, pause, record. Stop, pause, record. I'd be sitting up all night, and you, particularly in lower grade matches and all that sort of thing, because there's no commentary on it.
Huh.
And a lot of games we had, unless you were the TV match of the day, there was no commentary on it. It was just blank air, and it was black and white. And I sat up all night every night, watching games and watching replays, and it sent you quite mad actually. But then if I wanted to cut up something, if we were playing Newcastle this week, I'd have vision of their last 4 or 5 games, plus incidents that I remembered, whether they wanted a short kick-off, a short line drop-out, what they did from tap wins, what they did from midfield scrum wins, all these sorts of things, so special plays, moments and all that sort of thing. But I remembered it from 6 weeks ago. They did one against the Dragons. They did one of these against the Broncos. And if they get in a position, they'll repeat this again. So the analysis was fairly intense, and we had no assistant coaches. We were doing it all ourselves. And so if I wanted to cut that down into something that I could put on there to stop Graham Bradley and Paul Smith falling asleep in the video session, stop, pause, record, stop, pause, record, stop, pause, record, and try and cut it.
I can't believe it.
I'd have to have 2 video players, and one to the other. It was.
That's how you used to knock. If you go.
Then in 2002, a bloke called Andrew Muffarridge, who he came from a mob called Sports Data. Andrew passed away last year, sadly, but. He came up with the technology that I'd been looking for all my life, was the ability to time code a game on a computer, so that I could go to any second of any game or any incident. I could look up all the tackles that Matt Thompson misses on his left shoulder.
Wouldn't be enough gigabytes.
And click it, and it would give me a video analysis of the last 2 years, and I could sit there and show me Darren Lockyer's 5th tackle options in the opposition half, on the left-hand side of the field, and ring up they'd come, and then you'd show me all Cameron Smith's dummy half runs, show me all Billy Slater's dummy half supports. And what you then started to do, I said, players are creatures of habit. This happens over and over and over and over again. Be alert that when we're in this position of the field and they're in that position of the field, this is likely what's coming your way. And I assume they still do all that. They've got a stack of staff. I mean, there's plenty of coaches there.
Pity he'd retired from coaching when
this
came in.
How many of them? How much they actually give the players, I don't know. I don't really sit in on those meetings much anymore.
So back to the VHS. Where'd you keep all the tapes?
I had boxes and boxes and boxes. I had them back from when I was coaching reserve grade and first grade, and sometimes they bring up players from reserve grade for that week, so I'd have to go back and find the reserve grade performance to see what about him, if it was a halfback or fullback or a dummy half or something like that. So, and I kept them all and I marked them all, and I had.
So you had a catalogue?
Boxes and box. No, I just had what it was, boxes and boxes, and then all the tapes that I'd done up for myself, they were in a different box, so they were edited parts of the game, and then there was the whole thing, and I had a whole dossier on everyone, our games, their games, every game, and I had in boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes. Well, I moved house a couple of times, and
did you chuck them out?
No, I kept them for a long time because I always thought I'd go back to coaching. You know, when I retired from coaching, I thought, I just needed a break. I just needed a couple of years off, and then I went back to the Roosters as a coaching director. And then when I left there, I just never got around to going back to coach. I always thought I would. I always thought one day I would, but I just didn't. So in the end, I had no need for all these videos. And now by then, it was all on computer anyway. So the analyzer system that we use now, it's fascinating. It's brilliant. If I'd have had that when I coached back in the 80s and 90s, I'd be a scratch golfer. I'd have had that much time to go and play golf and enjoy myself.
I love that.
Instead, I spent all night every night sitting up watching videos and stop, pause, record, stop, pause, record, stop, pause. And a number of times you stuffed it up. And do it again, you know.
Oh, did you tape over it? Hope you didn't tape over.
Yeah, taped over. Oh, yeah. And then old mate would come home and record a show and it'd go over the top of your nights versus junior. And you blow up and
you put it on Miami Vices on there instead.
Yeah. Yeah, so you had to.
Oh, that's too good.
You had to keep your blank tapes away from everywhere. Yeah,
how many tapes you reckon you had?
Oh, thousands.
Wow.
Boxes and boxes of them.
They'd be worth a fortune now.
Boxes and boxes.
Fascinating.
Wouldn't be worth anything. Well, there'd be some old vision there that people didn't have. I know we used a few of them for Boots and All. Remember the old show Gossie and I used to do in the past, and we'd go back. And it sent me quite crazy, actually. But I always thought I'd go back to it. I always thought, so I kept them, but then I never went back to coaching, and it was all on computer anyway. They went back and did all the old games and time coded them up. And
I wonder how many people still got a VHS machine today?
Oh, I don't know.
Probably some of our older listeners that probably still got shows they watch on VHS.
Remember the video shops? You used to go and get the videos?
And then that's what you used to do. You used to pirate them.
Blockbuster and, yeah.
There's still a few of them around, I think.
I don't think, are there?
Is it?
No.
I'm sure there's a Blockbuster video.
No, you got.
No, but with DVDs.
You got Stan and all these other things now.
I think I saw one the other day.
Apple and
maybe I had a drink.
You can get movies anywhere now. You can get anything.
All right.
How long since you've been to the movies? How long since you've...
I'm not a big movie watcher.
I love going to the movies. I only go to the movies at the Gold Coast. If I go to the holiday, we always go and watch a movie at the Gold Coast. And I don't mind the Gold Class if a new movie comes out. But you kind of wait for it to come on.
Last one I saw at the movies was the Elvis movie. Have you watched Elvis?
A lot of movies now are made for TV. They're not not made for the movie theatre anymore.
Have you seen the Elvis film?
I haven't seen it.
You've got to see it.
Yeah.
The bloke that plays Elvis is just out of this world. Oh. And Tom Hanks plays his manager, the Colonel. It's a good story. You should watch it. Jono says, boys, taking a leaf from your yes, yes, no, no segment, I've put together a few of my own questions for Gus.
Right.
Toughest player you've coached?
Brad Fittler.
Ooh. Toughest you've played against?
Toughest player I played against? What's tough? The hardest I was ever hit was a bloke called Keith Harris, who used to play for North Sydney.
Oh.
And back in the day, the magazines, the Big League magazine or Rugby League Week magazine, they used to poll a player every week, and they'd ask him questions. What's your favourite food? What's your favourite movie? Who's the hardest tackler? I reckon 2 out of every 3 weeks, someone said Keith Harris.
Yeah, right.
I thought, really? And he hit me one day.
And you agreed?
I never got asked, but I would have said Keith Harris.
Keith Harris?
Keith Harris? No, Keith. I can't, I might have the name wrong. But that's my mind going. They're all tough. Violence, not tough. There was a lot of violent ones, but they're all tough.
Best halfback you played against? This is John O's questions, not mine.
Best halfback I played against. Best halfback I played against. Probably Sterling and Kenny. Sterling and Kenny were a great combination. Yeah.
And this is a good one. Favourite game you've been involved with?
Favourite game I've been involved with? One of my favourite ever games is Origin 1 2003, which was the opening of the new Suncorp Stadium.
Yep.
Wayne Bennett was coaching Queensland. We'd had a drawn series the year before, and it's one of my favourite all-time games to be involved. I was coaching, I wasn't playing, but what we put into that game and the strategy we took into it and the result that we got, not only won that game, it won the next one as well. So it's one of my favourite ever when
Yeah.
You're right in the moment and right in the game, and everything you sort of work for and everything you predict comes true virtually to the minute. It was one of my favourite ever games, and it was a great game between two very good teams.
Good one, Jono. That was an excellent series of questions. 6 tackle trivia. Now, you've already touched on this. Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow is the second player in the NRL era to score a try in the first 6 games of the year. Does that surprise you?
Yeah,
Second in the NRL era.
In the NRL era.
Who's the first? Or who's the only other player to have done it? And I saw this question earlier, and I got it right, but I haven't told anyone. The Hammer is the second player in the NRL era to score a try in the first 6 games of the year. Who was the other player to do it? We're going to have a little break. You're on 6 Tackles with Gus, and the answer is on the other side.
I have no idea, but I think somewhere in commentary, someone might have brought it up the other night. Dave Middleton must have handed them a little bit of sheet of paper and said that, but I can't remember the name of the player that did it, and it wasn't a.
He's not currently playing in the NRL.
No. When they said it, I remembered him. I don't remember specifically him scoring, but I remember him scoring a lot of tries at the time. No, I don't know.
Semi Radradra.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Semi Radradra.
In 2014. That surprises me. 2 players ever to score tries in the first 6 games of the year in the NRL.
It's not easy to do.
No, it's not. So that's how good the Hammer's going.
If I knew it wasn't Billy Slater, but he would have probably been my first. Him or an Inglis probably would have been my first guess. But I'd heard the other day, and it wasn't either of them, but I just couldn't remember who it was. And of course, Semi's not in the game anymore.
There is a new Inglis too. I'm glad you just mentioned Greg Inglis, because I should say congrats to Elise, our colleague, and her husband Greg Inglis, who welcomed a baby last week, little Lily Inglis. So there is a future star of the NRLW just been born. Congrats to them. So after last year's success, where we crowned Nicho Hynes as the best looking man in rugby
Who
league,
rated it a success?
everyone.
No one.
Everyone.
Who? Where?
The game was talking about this. We got record votes when we put our poll up between Nicho Hynes and Cam Murray.
Rubbish.
We did. I can verify this with the digital department.
Go on.
Well, this one's going to knock it out of the park. 6 tackle scariest man in rugby league. During this week coming, we're going to put up on the socials a couple of little graphics where you can nominate your scariest man in rugby league in the comments section. We're going to whittle them down, and we're going to start the process next week to christen the scariest man in rugby league.
Define scary. What's
Someone
scary?
who scares you on the field. Who would be scary to play against? Maria Hargreaves. Scary.
Fastest. He doesn't scare you. Fastest
What?
player.
No, like scariest looking.
Eh?
Like scariest looking. Like, oh, God.
Oh, appearances.
Yeah.
Scariest looking.
Yeah. Like scary. You don't think Maria Hargreaves is scary on the field?
No.
Really?
What are you scared of?
What about big Hamoli Olakawatu?
Well, you're scared of what he might do to the scoreboard, but you're not scared of him.
Okay,
surely.
well, it's open to interpretation. So, who scares you? The little quick men.
Hamiso, like players like that are scary quick. You know, Addo-Carr. I hated coaching against players like that.
Okay.
Scary. Alan Langer was a player that kept me awake at night.
I suppose when I put this together, I was thinking intimidation factor.
You can't intimidate these days. You're not allowed to intimidate these days. It's been taken out of the game. Can't do that. Might scare little Johnny.
You're not taking this in the spirit it's intended, Gus.
Well, I'm asking you to define scariest.
Blokes that make up yourself. Jared, he doesn't find you scary. I'll remind him that next time we're out there doing a Roosters game. I'll bring him into the box.
I don't have to tackle him.
Hey, Gus, what's it doing, bro?
I don't have to tackle him.
Anyway, I'm also going to ask some of our commentary team to nominate who are scary. So during the week, keep your eye out. You can send your nominations through, and next week we'll try to narrow it down. Let's have a look at round 7, shall we?
Damien Cook, he scares me.
Yeah?
He scares me very quick.
What about Keegan Kaloa-Matangi? Now, there's a scary-looking bloke.
Why is he scary looking?
Haven't you seen the size of the bloke?
Well, what's scary about size? Anyway.
You're as tougher than me.
No.
Okay, thanks to Bluebet, let's have a look at round 7. The odds are correct as of 9 a.m. Wednesday, the 12th of April. Just remember, to ask yourself what you're really gambling with. For free and confidential support, visit gamblinghelponline.org.au. Thursday night footy, kick-off at 7:50 here on 9 at Suncorp Stadium. The Dolphins, who are still in the top 4, despite a debilitating injury list, are $3.60 outsiders against the Rabbitohs at $1.29. Some Alex Johnson's been named, still some doubt over him. And I noticed the Dolphins, Katoa's again at 7, Nikorima's at 6. The Hammers still there. They're still a handy enough side, but they are obviously missing a few of their key troops. They get Jesse Bromwich back this week, though.
Yeah. The Bennett style of football and what he'll take into this game, the simplicity of it, is the way to beat Rabbit. And if they can control the ball and control where South Sydney get the ball, then this is going to be a lot closer than people think. The Rabbitohs, when they get plenty of possession and they get a wind in their sails and they're getting plenty of penalties, can be an awesome team to try and contain because they've got such strike power. But if you can get them into a grind, as a couple of teams have shown this season, and keep the ball away from them and control where they get the ball, then they're a completely different animal. And that's Bennett football to a T. It really is. And the beauty of it will be the simplicity of the Dolphins game, and the Rabbitohs, already talking about the fact they're playing against Wayne Bennett and thinking about what Wayne might do, and Wayne's not the least bit worried about what South Sydney are going to do.
What have they've been talking about that, have they?
Yeah, they have. Everyone's going to ask them the question, you're playing against your old coach and all that sort of thing. So I said 100% footy the other night. If they keep thinking about Wayne, they're going to stub their toe on this one. I think this will be a classic. Wayne's. I keep saying to you, he's hard to beat. The thing about it is the Dolphins aren't going to beat themselves. You've got to beat them. You've got to beat Wayne Bennett's football. I think they'll be much closer than what the market is saying. Having said that, I'll go with Rabbit because if Cody Walker and Chell get it right, they're pretty hard to contain.
Should mention Jai Arrow is back and he's in the front row too, so he's a big inclusion in the Origin forward. So Dolphins Rabbits, you'll see it here on 9. Early game Friday. Have a guess where we're going? Down to the Triangle.
Yep, Bermuda Triangle.
Sharkies $2.15 outsiders up against the Roosters $1.73. Gee, the Roosters were ordinary with a capital O against Melbourne.
Yeah, and I think the Sharks here are being judged on that performance against the Warriors. Now, against the Warriors a fortnight ago, down at the Bermuda Triangle, they led 20-0 and they were going to win by 60.
Yes, they were.
The Warriors had no answer to them whatsoever, and then all of a sudden the Bermuda Triangle did its thing. Cronulla started doing silly things, and the Warriors just ground their way back in and beat them. Now, the Warriors have come out and been beaten by Newcastle, and Roosters have gone to Melbourne. Were pretty ordinary the other night, which can happen to teams in Melbourne, I suppose.
I'll just mention the team changes too. Wade Graham's back from suspension and Oregon Kafusi, but they've lost Toby Rudolph and Alphanukin, and Teddy's back at fullback. So Manu's into the centres, Hutchison the bench, Turpin out of the side.
Yeah, well, I'll go Rooster.
Okay. Friday, over at Four Pines Brookvale, the Seagulls $2.45 up against the Melbourne Storm at $1.55 on Bluebet. Now, Ruben Garrick will miss the game because of a head knock. Raymond Tuimolo Vega will come in to replace him. Aaron Woods is going to make his debut for the club. Now, this is probably the biggest team news of the weekend. Nick Meaney's out, so Cameron Munster's going to fullback and Jonah Pesett's coming in to partner Jerome Hughes in the halves.
Makes them even more dangerous.
Yeah.
Storm win.
Okay. Warriors, Cowboys. $1.90 each of 2 over at Mount Smart Stadium. Tamare Martin. Poor bloke. So they say he might have a fractured ankle. And Wade Egan's got a head knock. Walker at 5'8", Lussick at hooker. Jeremiah Nene returns for the Cowboys. And Griffin Neems, this is another serious injury. He's fractured his throat.
Yeah.
Never heard of that before, does it?
Yeah.
He's out for 2 months. But Murray Taulagi comes in. Geez, the Cowboys are cruelling people in tipping competitions, aren't they? You think they're going to come good, and they haven't.
No. I think the inclusion of Nanai is a big one, and I think Wade Egan and Tamara Martin are big outs for the Warriors. I'll go with Cowboy there.
Okay. 5:30 Saturday, McDonald Jones Stadium, Newcastle. Knights $5 outsiders with Jaden Brayley out, Phoenix Crosland, the hooker, Tyson Gamble back, and the Panthers have got Liam Martin and Luke Garner on their extended bench, so I would imagine they'll both come in.
Yep, Panther.
Saturday night, Titans 370 with Kieran Foran back in the lineup up against the Broncos $1.28 on the Gold Coast.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, gee. I'll go Bronco, but with no real confidence.
You give them a red-hot chance, Titans.
I do.
What do you think of their performance last week?
I never thought they were going to win. They had a lot of players out.
Yeah.
Gee, they had a lot of players out. And I thought, well, I'm sitting there watching. I'm saying, well, this is the Dragons to lose. I mean, and they found a way to lose. I'm not so sure the Titans beat them. I think the Dragons just beat themselves. It was a game where, watching the game live, I never had the feeling that the Dragons would lose. And when they got to the front late, I thought, well, better late than never. At least they're in front now. They should win. All they had to do was catch a kick-off. And then all they had to do, when they didn't catch the kick-off, was defend one set of 6.
They couldn't do it.
And couldn't do it. Couldn't defend 3 tackles. So that was disappointing from their perspective. I just don't know that Titans will have enough points in them. They always play well against the Broncos, but I think Bronco will be too strong on this occasion.
Oh, you were at the game, weren't you?
I was there. I was with Peter Sharp, sitting up in the grandstand. We were just enjoying a day out at the footy.
Nice. Did you enjoy it?
I loved it.
Beautiful day.
It's nice just to go to the football and not working, not caring about who won.
Did you have a beer?
No, I didn't.
Have a hot dog?
No, I didn't. I went out for dinner with Wayne Beavis that night. We went to Amira's seafood restaurant at the Gold Coast, my favourite restaurant.
Right.
Had a lovely night, seeing the old beaver.
Did you have a glass of wine?
I didn't. No, I didn't. I had a couple of wines with Peter Sharp the night before.
Yeah.
I don't drink much these days. I went out with the boys from Oak yesterday. The blokes used to run Oak, the sponsor of Panthers.
Oh, yeah, did you?
Twice a year I go out and have lunch with them, Craig Garvin and David Pitt. They don't work for Oak anymore. They left a couple of years ago. But
You're in good nick today.
We became good mates, and I very rarely drink these days, but that's 2 days a year where I will have a drink, and I did yesterday.
Did you?
We went to a Chinese restaurant at Circular Quay. We go to a little Chinese restaurant down there, and then we go to the Ship Inn and have a couple of drinks there, and I did that. And I got home last night, and I had a terrible sleep. I feel terrible today.
Oh, you don't look it.
But, that's my alcoholic intake for the season.
Well done.
Unless I have a day at the races, but I don't go to the races very often these days either.
Sunday, 2 p.m. down in Canberra.
Do you drink at home? I don't drink at home.
Never.
No.
I'm not drinking this rugby league season.
I gave up drinking a long time ago. Never meant to do it. I just did. I just stopped drinking. I very rarely have alcohol these days.
Yep. Makes you too sleepy. You got too much to do.
Maybe I need to. Maybe I should drink. Maybe I need to drink.
I'll tell you, after the start of this podcast, I felt like you're about to.
Oh, yeah. I get depression. Don't worry about that.
Raiders $1.04. Don't
I sit there and watch games.
With your VHS tapes.
Oh, my God. The refereeing.
Raiders $1.48.
The judiciary. Yeah.
Dragons $2.65.
It's painful. Someone stick up for the game. Stick up for our game.
Couple of big ins for Ricky Stewart. Jack Whiten's
what's
back.
What's our game supposed to be?
Joseph Tarpanay's back.
It's supposed to be a game for men.
Nick Kotrick's back.
No, they just want gentlemen. They want it to be played by gentlemen.
What do you think about Jordan Ruppner's head, by the way?
Don't hurt each other. Don't touch each other. Don't hit each other. Don't yell at each other.
Don't yell?
Don't swear.
There's not a yelling ban, is there?
Don't yell. No, you can't do anything. Don't tackle him. You catch the ball, then I'll tackle you.
I was driving up to Newcastle to visit some family on...
Don't get in his way. Don't bump into him. Don't run. It's painful.
I was driving up to Newcastle on Saturday evening when the Raiders Brisbane game was on, and my youngest son Jacob was on the phone commentating it to me.
Was he? How did he go?
Yeah, he's all right. And then the Rapiner thing happened. He said, "Oh, Rapiner's head's exploded." I said, "Sorry?"
Yeah,
said, his head's exploded.
Yeah, so we've got to send someone to Azkaban for it.
Oh, that's what I meant to ask you. What's Azkaban?
You don't know what Azkaban is?
No, I thought it was Alcatraz.
No, Alcatraz is in San Francisco. Yeah. That's the island.
What's Azkaban?
Azkaban is the prison in Harry Potter series.
Oh.
You never watched Harry Potter?
Never once.
Never once?
No.
See, this explains a lot about you.
Have you watched? You watch Harry Potter?
Yeah.
That'd be the last thing I would have thought you'd watch.
When the kids were growing up, they grew up with Harry Potter. We went to all the shows.
Really?
Yeah. And if it comes on the TV now, I'll still sit and watch it.
Wow.
It's one of the most magnificent TV series I've ever seen for imagination and what they did with that was incredible. It was incredible. Great cinema, great TV, great. And the kids grew up with it. Our kids grew up with it.
Right.
I'm taking my wife to Melbourne to see the Harry Potter stage play.
Are you really?
Apparently it's ending in Melbourne soon. It's not coming to Sydney.
Okay.
So she said, do you want to go and see it? I said, I'll go and see it.
Oh,
I don't mind Harry Potter. Yeah, Azkaban was the prison in Harry Potter. When you went there, you never come back. Or a couple did. But
why wouldn't you come back?
Wasn't a very nice place.
Oh.
Yeah. But that's where that's where the judiciary are going to start sending players now. Send them to Azkaban. Old mate got a split head. Someone's got to.
Maybe Harry Potter should be the judiciary chairman.
Someone's got to do life. There's no accidents anymore.
Azkaban. There we go.
Chicken wings and all sorts of things.
They're called the devil wings
Drop
now.
tackles. You can't tackle a bloke from behind. How do you tackle a bloke from behind now? Where do you tackle him? Do you just ask him to stop? Mate, please stop. Don't run so hard. That's how we can stop the collision. Please don't run so hard.
Can we finish this?
Don't tackle so hard.
Raiders will beat the Dragons down there, won't
Who's going to stick up for a game? Who sticks up for a game? No one sticks up for a game. Everyone just sits there and cops it.
Do you want me to do the
cops it, sweet. Where are you up to? Go on.
Raiders Dragons with all those Whiten's back, Tarpanay's back, Kotrick's back. They're at home. They've beaten Brisbane up there at Suncorp.
Well, I think they found the formula for the way this Raiders team's got to play the other night. They really went out and stuck it to the Broncos, and they stuck at it for 80 minutes. And if they can do that again, they'll probably beat the Dragons.
Okay. And Sunday afternoon footy from Combank, the Bulldogs. Oh, I really feel for you and the Dogs with Kikau. Everyone's excited about him back. You do have Tavita Pangai back, and you do have Raymond Faitala-Mariner back against Para, who were far from convincing against the Tigers. So you'll be putting up a bold showing.
Let's hope so. So the tips, I'm going for, so much of me wants to say dolphin. Fins up. I'm going to say rabbit. I'm going to say rooster. I'm going to say storm, cowboy, panther, bronco, raider.
Bulldog.
And the wounded bulldog.
So you've hesitated with the Dolphins and the Titans. A couple of big outsiders. You think you could see those going the way of the roughie?
Well, I think the market should be a lot closer than it is. I think Dolphins will give a really good account of themselves against the Rabbitohs. A lot will depend on how that game is refereed. And the Titans and the Broncos, as showed the other night, can only do it one way. If they don't get their way, then they don't have a plan B. So if the Titans can get to them early and do their thing, I just don't think this Titans team's got enough points in it at the moment. Is Kieran Foran going to play? Is he fitting well?
He's been named, yeah.
Yeah, that'll make a difference. But I'll go with Bronco to bounce back, but not convinced.
All right, don't forget too, during the week, nominations for Scariest Player in Rugby League. I'm off to Azkaban.
Scariest player.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matthew.
That's 6 Tackles with Gus for this week.
Use your ears from now on.
I'm a listener. I'm a lover and a listener. See you next week. Enjoy the footy.
What are you really gambling with? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website